Hi, I'm Dr. Jennifer Henrichsen, and I'm an assistant professor at the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication. I'm also an affiliated fellow with Yale Law School's Information Society Project and an affiliated fellow with UPenn and Rutgers Media Inequality and Change Center.
Murrow College Field Notes, real-world lessons from Murrow professors.
One way to look at what I've been working on over the past few years, or more actually, is sort of understanding the different types of nefarious actors who are out there trying to harm journalists and journalism, and what that means for journalism's role in a democratic society. So the first sort of prong of my research is focused on trying to figure out what's happening, what types of challenges journalists are facing, what types of threats and attacks.
Jen is an authoritative voice on issues of technology in the newsroom, on information security, and on journalist safety. These are really critical issues that the Murrow College is really well positioned as a result of Dr. Henrichsen's work to become a leader in.
I was at the UN in the press room, and this was during that internship. And basically I believe I saw the press release, and it said that the Swedish photojournalist was shot and killed while reporting in Somalia. And I thought, oh my God, what do you mean? How did this happen? And so it really started me thinking about, human rights issues, journalism security. And I looked around and I realized no one else was similarly kind of struck and enraged by what I just read, which I thought was a little odd. Up until that point, I wasn't sure what specifically I was going to focus on. It was very open-ended. And that was the lightning moment for me, in that I thought, wow, this is a big issue. What's happening here? How do we get to the bottom of it? How do we prevent it from happening again? I didn't know this, obviously, but this was a big problem, right? And it's just escalated in many ways since then. So I had two really recent publications, one on mob censorship, so looking at how state and non-state actors are targeting journalists online to censor them. A second paper that is of interest potentially is about the lack of digital security and information security knowledge in education in journalism programs across the US. And we did sort of a landscape of what programs focus on digital security or information security, or which programs even have a class in it, or even some content related to it. And we found that very few do. And as part of that, I wanted to make sure that the classes that I teach, or at least in one of the classes that I teach here, I do emphasize information security or digital security for journalists, because these are issues that the next generation of journalists are going to face if they're not already facing. So it's raising awareness of the different types of challenges, but also ways to mitigate some of those concerns that they're going to face once they're in the field.
Jen does a really good job of representing Murrow and the university on the international stage. She is an invited speaker and panelist at a range of national and international conferences, and this brings a lot of recognition and prestige to the Murrow College and to Washington State University.
Yes, I do travel a lot. It's a chance to connect with other people now about what you're working on, gain inspiration, see what they're working on, figure out how they might be moving the field forward, and what you can learn from them. It's also a great opportunity for collaboration. So a lot of people that I've met with at conferences, I knew of them, I cited their work, or I followed them on Twitter, which is now X, but I hadn't yet met them in person. And so once you meet in person, it's so much easier to develop a type of collaboration. I was in Cardiff at this conference, and this great scholar who I've cited, he was like, yeah, I've been seeing your name everywhere, congratulations. And I was like, oh, wow, thank you. So it's nice. Some of the research that I talked about earlier related to the lack of digital security education within journalism programs. That finding was actually really useful, right? Because then I was able to say, okay, if this isn't being taught in a lot of places, how do I make sure that I teach it here? So I have different modules that focus on physical safety, digital safety of journalists, as well as information security techniques and practices. Also, since I am an expert in information security and journalism, I do incorporate some of my own research in that module, so students have a firsthand understanding of, how I carried out the research project, what the findings were, and how it could affect their, future career as well. as we know, the college was named after Edward R. Murrow, who was an incredible broadcaster, had really strong ethics, right? Had strong understandings of the power of journalism and the importance of journalism being independent. And I would say that my research agenda is focused on trying to understand the challenges that face journalism from a technological standpoint, a political standpoint, and then equipping journalists and students with ways to make sure that they're able to carry out their role in a democratic society.